Welcome back to the Skylanders Ultimate Nightmare series, where I will play a solo run with every Skylander on Nightmare mode to see which Skylanders and which of their upgrade paths are better. Today we're playing as Wrecking Ball, starting out on the Total Tongue upgrade path. Here, Wrecking Ball's tongue attack can be quicker than before, it deals extra damage and can pick up food and power-ups, and it grows even longer. Taking damage in the Chompy Pit room is already not a good sign. It shows one of Wrecking Ball's big weaknesses, especially on this upgrade path, that being able to take care of swarms of enemies. If there's tons of enemies all around you, the tongue can only target one at a time, the burp often misses and has to be charged, and the rollout attack is sometimes hard to aim. The Soul Gem, which is from the first game, allows Wrecking Ball to swallow up smaller enemies, which does heal him, and having any kind of healing ability is pretty nice on Nightmare mode, I would say at least. Although this one is a little bit limiting, because you of course need enemies to be there and alive. I guess you could stand next to a Chompy pod, have it spawn a bunch of Chompies and eat those guys, but that would probably take forever. It's still early enough in the game where the developers said, yeah, we'll just throw a bunch of Chompies at them, they'll be able to deal with that, surely. For Wrecking Ball, I don't really know if he's going to be able to last too long if he's struggling with the Chompies. And it's not like his single target damage is much better. It deals 15 damage to hit someone with a tongue, and you can only hit one guy at a time. The best strategy I often found with this attack is to hit someone, walk away, hit someone, walk away, and you end up circle camping them a little bit while dodging their attacks. And the high health enemies like Goliath Drows, which also spawn shields at some point, these guys take kind of a long time. At least we can make the Executioners damage each other, and that takes a big chunk of the damage off of them. It is also possible to reach some enemies that are on higher ground, as the tongue will angle up to reach them. For as much as I'm kind of complaining about the tongue attack, I'm not really using his other moves, and that's because just look at how pitiful the burp is. It's hitting one or two guys at a time, despawning immediately, it's got zero range. What is the purpose of that move? And I could be using the force field bot a little bit more, but I'm afraid I'm gonna roll right into an enemy as they're swinging their axe down to hit me, because that move is very hard to control. With this low damage and no safe mobility, the Ice Bowl is pretty tricky, as with most characters. Enemies that can help you deal damage to the other enemies, such as being able to pick up these bombs, it's kind of a godsend for this character with no DPS. So we're going to need to take advantage of that kind of thing whenever it shows up. Now these armored enemies, I believe the way their armor works is that they tank a certain number of hits. So my damage is not a huge concern for them, but it doesn't make dealing with tons of enemies that easy though. I suppose the burp is semi-usable against these big non-moving enemies, but it's barely even more damage than the tongue. The name of the game here, as per usual, is to dodge enemies and pick up bombs to use against them. And now we run into kind of a big issue, is these shielding enemies with big blast radii in a really small area, they overwhelm me and Wrecking Ball goes down in Chapter 6. On to run number 2, we're testing out the Ultimate Spinner upgrade path, which improves my Force Field Ball. Specifically, while in the Force Field Ball, you can stop and create an explosion, or you can stop to create a powerful burp attack, and the ball is much larger and deals much more damage. Now as you can see, when you use the powerful burp ball in the ball, it stands you still for a minute and then does an explosion around you, damaging everyone, which is pretty nice. It gives you a bit more control for this attack, which I like, because you can stop it whenever you want. And the other thing you can do is to create an explosion, which both of the moves do. I get mixed up between them because they look and act so similar, but you can do an explosion which will stop the ball rolling pretty much instantly, and that's fantastic because then you can start using another ball, you can roll into a different direction, you can do whatever you want. And now this attack is actually pretty good. Suddenly this move transforms into a really good way to deal with the crowds, unless you get stuck on this bridge and behind some chompies like I do, but it's okay, just eat them and you'll heal up, it'll be fine. The tongue attack goes from dealing 15 damage down to 11 on this upgrade path without the damage increase, which makes it quite slow to take out enemies. Its purpose now is kinda just to eat enemies to heal. You can't even pick up food and power-ups with it anymore. Although that's arguably a good thing, because sometimes whenever you tried to attack an enemy, you would instead pick up a piece of gold and no longer hit them. which reduced your already really slow damage output. For Brock's Arena, I decided to test out my new control by knocking these guys off the edge and trying to stay on myself, which worked out really well actually. And you can bowl right through these enemies. If you press the explosion to cancel the move, it does more damage and lets you walk away instantly afterwards. I definitely found myself using that version of the move more often than the burp, just because you don't sit still for a while. But it's somehow powerful enough to kill basically all of these enemies in the end of Chapter 4 as soon as they spawn, which is something I was not at all expecting from this character. Don't mind me trying to line up the snowball insta-kill on this guy. It doesn't fully work, however it's not a huge deal because now I can control myself super easily on the ice. You also get a lot of armor while using this move, which I believe is due to the Series 2 Wow Pow. It often allows you to roll straight through enemies without really having any issues, which is great because it actually does fantastic damage as well. Apparently it cannot stop freezing, however. And even though I accidentally killed the bomber, it's not even super important because I have damage output as this character. I did not think Wrecking Ball was any good. Not even 2 Bark Demons can stand a chance against me. It takes about 10 seconds flat and they're both down. And now we're back up to our Key and Jouster Bridge, which is where I lost the other run. The strategy is to roll up behind them really quickly and try to kill them before they get to this position at the end of the bridge where the battle gate is. I would just like to note Wrecking Ball is eating a tree stump to heal here. Grenade Generals, the bane of everyone's existence, don't even stand a chance against Wrecking Ball. Rolling through them kills them instantly, and these guys up on the ledge could even be grabbed with a tongue if I needed to, but I can dodge so easily now. These enemies are lined up perfectly so I can go bowling and take out almost all of them in just a couple hits. Some characters may struggle at this section because you can't walk through the enemies super easily as there's so many, but Wrecking Ball can while using this move, which is kind of a niche strategy, but it helps out quite a bit. The big single target enemies still tend to be the hardest to take out, but when there's only one of them at a time you can at least dodge pretty safely. Despite how prepared you are and how much mobility you have, you can never underestimate Grenade Generals. I'm down to only 86 health, there's tons of enemies, but luckily most of them die in just one force field ball attack. Last time I was playing this level as Wrecking Ball, I was able to eat the Inhuman shields even though they were blocking the attacks, so it must be one of the upgrades on the Total Tongue path that allows you to do that. Overall, this run has made Wrecking Ball go from one of my least favorite characters to one that I quite like actually. Being able to mow down enemies with the force field ball is really fun. It deals so much more damage than anything else in its move kit, and the other moves are kind of obsolete. But it was enough to put Wrecking Ball in currently 5th place on the rankings.